Hey everybody, this is Perch. This mail, I don't think anybody's gonna. I feels like no matter what I say, that people are gonna be irritated about. I don't know. I don't think there's a way to kind of just deliver a fair answer. I'm gonna give it a shot because I do have a fair answer, but I don't think anybody. I don't think that people will be satisfied with the answer. This feels like one where people really want to say everything is amazing, better than the mainstream, or it is terrible, awful people building awful things. That's how I feel. So but let's get into it and be brave, right? It says, Dear easiest fish in the world to catch. First of all, Mumbles was right. No idea what he said, but I firmly agree. Okay. But by the way, why everybody goes to the fish and you miss the obvious, right? The very obvious, which is people say what, a fence sitter, person in the middle. Well, if you're on top of a fence, what do? You perch, huh? I can't take credit for that. Somebody else brought that up. But anyway, as I've mentioned before, that was not the intent in picking the name. I don't know. I remember the story about the icon. I do not. The only thing I remember with the name it was available. That's it. But maybe it's out. I don't know. I haven't been fishing for perch. I guess is it good? I think I've had perch. Of course, I've had to have had. Anyway, all right, never mind. I won't go down that track. Now that you know your place, oh, I know. I've been wondering something and also have some things to express while I'm at it. I've been watching comics YouTube since before CG was labeled. Okay. I've been lurking since it was almost just Diversity Zach. You should go for that name, Diversity Zach. It sounds like one of the WWF wrestlers from the 80s. He would sometimes team up with the Bushwhackers and Jim Duggan. Diversity, and here comes Diversity Zach, and he'd like come out with some kind of prop. Anyway, sorry, Captain Cummings and almost and that Eventine fellow. Eventine? That's not right. I watched Zach turn EVS to the dark side. I'm not sure that's how it worked, and snub the industry by lending legitimacy to their detractors. I witnessed the Tenaple fiasco, milkshake ground zero. That sounds like a porn. The Kate's spiral, which one? Lawsuits, war campaigns, pegging. I don't want to know. I don't remember pegging. I remember all the other ones. But pegging, I, you know what? No, you don't need to explain the comments. It's fine. Then you blundered into this mess, and I think you're the proper person to answer something with proper bias. Okay. I've been around for a while, anyway. You seem to have disdain for tribalism. That is true. Conspiracies, I mean, dumb ones, sure. And political stances, I do hate them all. The Nobody for President, which was part of the Doom Patrol run, was pretty brilliant, and that's what I'm going with in the next election. Nobody for President sounds great. Anyway, and but won't deny the obvious. All right. Judging by the backgrounds used in your videos, your obsession with the ridiculous era of DC, and your which one, and drunken meanderings with Joe, your tastes, or at least your humor and disposition, align fairly well with mine. Okay, good. To get to the point, have you read any CG books? And if you have, are any of them good? I myself have never bought or read one for various reasons. I won't get into all of them, but I had already stopped buying comics. Spider-Verse killed my willingness. Which one? See how this works? Anyway, killed my willingness to spend money on them. For me to do that again, I need assurances it will be well spent. There are several people I could usually trust to give me a rough idea of what to expect. However, some of them have now started making their own books, and I would be stupid to rely on people selling them to be honest about how good they are. Well, that's fair. I, of course, cannot rely on the establishment industry's opinion either. They are a bunch of hateful children who the world's. In fairness, the hateful children is far and wide in today's anyway. Sorry, where were we? Who continue to get metaphorically and publicly bitch slapped by those very books and their creators. In fairness, all right, you want a fair view. I'm not sure anybody's really bitch slapping anybody. I mean, if you look at Twitter, these things spark up. People, whine and bitch at each other, and then both sides kind of declare victory, and both sides look terrible. In most cases, in almost all of these little fights, like there's not a clear winner. I'm sorry, there's just not. Unless it's the faithful always believe there's a clear winner. The people who are watching from a distance, the people kind of don't really have any kind of dog in the fight, but would like to see some kind of definitive end. They always look at this stuff like, I don't know what I just witnessed. Two grown men, I think, whining at each other. Um, the thing that always bothers me, you mentioned tribalism and everything else. I'll tell you this one behavior that you see a lot of that always drives me nuts, and it's doing two contradictory things simultaneously. It's like going, I am a tough guy who is tough, and I'll take on any comers. Oh my God, somebody came my way. Call the police. It's that stuff. It's I'll say whatever I want. I can say whatever I want. Oh my God, call the Twitter support line and get this person banned. People float in and out of those behaviors like fluidly, seem like a perch, seamlessly. They go in and out of simultaneously wanting to be a tough guy plus victim. And I think it doesn't work. You can't be tough guy and victim simultaneously. You look like a fool. Again, the faithful to your particular side, whatever that side is, tends to have your back and be like, oh yeah, that's true. You are a tough guy, but yeah, also you don't deserve that stuff. I mean, they'll navigate it for you. But again, the vast majority of people who are looking at all this just goes, well, this person's a pussy. That's honestly, and that fits a lot of people. You watch these fights, and everybody gets like, I'll fight you anytime. Oh my God, you're coming near me. It's pathetic. I don't know. I hate that. Like stick in your lane, one or the other. Either do your thing and be like, you better not come after me. I'll get the police on you. And be consistent, or be like, screw the police. Let's throw down. Be one or the other. But don't be like snarky tough guy and also pussy. I'm anyway. That's sorry. Okay, so back to the mail. And they're great. Okay, now you might say, there you go. Why not check out some of those other YouTube reviewers going around? Well, those people to me seem like the new access media, sucking up to one side or the other, especially seeing how some of them have quickly weaseled their way into CG proper to pump out their own potentially drivelous snot. And then we have you, also snot. You don't give a fuck. Sorry, Jesus, caught me off guard. And pick sides. And I get the feeling you will tell me if something is shit if it is shit, or that it smells like daffodils and ponies if it actually does. I think ponies, is that a good smell? I don't think so. So in conclusion, you never shy away from mentioning CG, but you never talk about them as far as I've seen, setting aside the socially adept people and autistic drama aside. What about the books themselves? They can't all be good, but they can't all be bad. Do you have opinions on any of them from either personal knowledge or reliable sources? Not the not the steltering kind. Either I'm illiterate or that was a autocorrect mistake. Final note: I doubt I have anything to dox, but I've never been afraid of that. So go ahead, you bigot. Okay, sounds good. Oh my God, your name. I'm not going to mention your name, but that is one hell of a screen name. Okay. So I mean, the $1,000,000 question: are the CG books good or bad? Well, you kind of correct in your assertion. I mean, some are good, some are bad. And that's not I mean, like, I don't know that what Sweetcast is Clint Stoker. I don't think he's CG, or maybe he is. Those labels also come and go for quite a bit. But I mean, he has a good book. I mean, his book is solid. I do think Narwhal has a unique art style that he's perfected that is consistent, and that sounds like, what kind of praise is that? A lot of people pay, and this is maybe my biggest problem with a lot of the indie books, which goes way beyond CG, is you often find artists who are inspired by someone, but what they get inspired by are like a handful of pinups, and then when you get to the actual comic and you're going panel to panel, the art style falls apart. Suddenly, they don't have that inspiration to draw on, and so it's like they have to do their own thing. And you learn that they haven't really adopted the style; they've learned how to mimic the style, which is a very different thing. So I mean that I think that's kind of the clearest example of comics, unless you're talking about that Shane Davis guy. His stuff is garbage. So, sorry. I'm not sorry. He's sniped my stream plenty of times, so screw it. Uh, but no, look, I think interestingly enough, what I would say more broadly about the CG books is that they they would benefit heavily by something they often criticize the mainstream for not doing, and that's editing. A lot of and there's just a general quality control that would go a long way for a lot of those books. And I'll give you a couple examples of that. And it's distracting for me. So if I'm saying this and you're like, I don't give a shit about that, well then, that's giving you information too. Um, when you're using a font in your comic and you do that poorly, meaning you don't set the leading. If you don't know what I mean, that's the space between lines. You don't set the leading properly, so the text and the lettering just looks really goofy, or your kerning is off. That's the space between letters, so that you hit certain letters like a G and a P when they're next to each other, and so you just get a wider gap between letters because they haven't been properly adjusted. Or you're using like when it was some book. I used to get a lot of these books. I would order them for the shop, and then after I closed the shop, waiting to open another shop, I was still ordering several. And then I still order some, but not as nearly as many. And yes, if the CG people all got together, because I know several of them would love to dox me, just like some people in the mainstream have, although I think most of the people in the mainstream know who I am just by my voice. But regardless, yeah, I've ordered a bunch of these books. You could probably cross-pollinate a list pretty easily, but it would take effort. Anyway, the type is often screwy. And I got one book that was in literally, I hate people who use literally, it was in the default system font that comes with like on the computer. It looked like ass. And the challenge is if you're gonna do lettering or you're gonna do a comic and you put a lot of effort into it, and then you do really crappy lettering, it blows the experience very, very quickly. And for me, and I think a lot of the CG books have had that problem. The lettering and frankly, actually, let me broaden it. It's not just CG. This is a very common indie problem where the lettering gets super goofy. Um, the coloring also is one of those cases where I think that if you don't have a good colorist or you don't have a good printer lined up, then you're probably better off not and just going black and white or using tones or whatever you're happening to do. But going color and then doing a bad job of the color wrecks the art. And I mention these things because they seem like auxiliary things. You normally are like the story and the art. Well, if the story and the art are both solid, but then you blow the coloring or you blow the lettering, it's like taking a nice piece of art or a nice quality work and then just fucking it up just at the end. That's what comes across. Generally speaking, I think print production is, with a couple notable exceptions, the production of the comic itself is usually pretty solid. If you're a Marvel or DC person and you're used to how that comic feels, I know that sounds kind of weird. The CG comics, a lot of the indie comics, or the crowdfunded books will feel different. They'll feel like a different paper, maybe a slicker paper. It will just feel like a different product, and I know that's I like that. That's on a positive end. I think the print production has likely gotten a little bit better. So Marvel and DC, it's tough. Marvel and DC and Image are kind of a machine. You know what to expect. It's like a hamburger at McDonald's. It's not the best thing, but you know what it's going to be. And when you open it up and you eat it, you do not have a surprise. No, I'm not going to make a crack at Arby's right now, but there's some consistency to that. And so a lot of the indie books, and I think a lot of the crowdfunded books, the print quality is better than that. It's a better burger than McDonald's, but it does feel different. And so I think time will show how that all evolves. As I said, the art, some of these books look really good. Some of them, a lot. I don't know about a lot of them, but several of them really do feel like somebody was inspired by an artist, but really didn't nail the fundamentals of drawing. So you get off stuff, and the writing. Here's where it's probably unfair, but yes, for kind of a non-biased opinion, I think the writing for a lot of the CG stuff it's not amazing, it's not bad, It's kind of, it's fine. There's usually a decent story. However, you are seeing people at the beginning of their craft, and it feels that way. You don't have the same kind of smooth pacing and kind of, working the page that you do with somebody more senior. And also, a lot of the CG books are written in such a way to kind of set up more books. So you read the comic, and then there's a to be continued kind of aspect, but the to be continued is very much a, to be TBD. It maybe it'll be to be continued, maybe it won't, maybe it'll be continued 2 years from now. Like you don't know, and that with the way that people write, it kills some of the story because there's not enough meat to it to get a full and complete, arc of a story. And so you get you get kind of a half story, and then there's the promise that there will be more, but it's unclear if there actually will be more. And so that becomes a problem with a lot of these books. But look, I think the best, are there good CG books? Are there good indie books? Of course, yes, there are. Are there bad ones? Absolutely, there are bad ones. So the best way to determine it, I think, here's what I would do if I was, like you said, your situation is you stop spending money, you're interested in spending money again, but you want some proof of what you're doing. So here's what I would do. Um, Go, first off, buy from a creator who shipped before. So you're not getting their very first piece of work. Again, if this is your first entry into doing this and you're spending your own cash, then, go with somebody this isn't their first rodeo. You're more likely to get at least, I don't know about a polished product, but at least something that has been perfected a little bit. And then if you can, go with somebody who's published multiple books of the same character, the same lines. You actually get the sense of a story that's going to continue. That's one of the most common aspects of comics, is that it is a continuing, soap opera, if you will, of superheroes. So get something where you're not dealing with a one and done, because most of the one and dones are not, one and dones. Who's the other? Was it Monster? There's another. That was a good book. I remember saying that. But anyway, I should go through and actually list off the books. Now, it goes without saying, the one challenge you have whenever you step into talking about some of these books as a whole is that you get very angry reactions if you say anything even remotely negative. And not from everyone. There's plenty of people who take it with good grace or listen to the customers, I think is the phrase. But there's a lot of very angry, kind of ill-formed. You have to love it because, as much as it's sometimes making comics, it's also, it's a club, it's a movement, it's a group. I think as years go by, maybe a few more years go by, this will shake out to being, the movement will have come and gone. People will be tired of it. There's only so long you can be angry about, woke, Amazon, Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's now granted that show's going to go on forever and they're committed at this point. But I mean, you just, I don't know. Again, maybe it's just me, but on year 5 of bitching about the same TV show, eventually you're like, I've bitched as much as I can bitch. There's just no more left in me. And I think that comes. I mean, that's where a lot of this is headed. And so when it does get there, I think it's going to be more about the work, more about the comics. And I think in that world, you're going to see kind of this interesting split between people who know what they're doing and are committed to it and putting out decent stuff and getting better. And you're going to see a lot of first time, people who just love comics and want to give it a shot. Maybe they don't know what they're doing, but they always want to make a comic, so they're going to make one. And I think that the people who are in it continually putting out comics and doing that stuff, the quality is probably going to be pretty decent. It's certainly going to be in line with other indies and big two products, if not better, depending on what you like, because it will have shuffled out the people who really don't care. And the new entrants, the people who are just trying to do that first time project, I mean, it'll be pretty easy to spot those and either support them or not, depending on what you see. I hear people, there's people in the mainstream who certainly say all the CG books suck. I think, I don't know if I'm calling it, Gail Simone made some comment about, these books are all terrible. That's definitely not true. And I think if you were fairly grading all of these books, including the mainstream, including the indies, including everything, they're all in one pile, you'd see a huge mix. You'd see some mainstream books up there. You'd see some indie books in there. You'd see some CG books. They'd all be there's no like clear grouping of a victor. You'd see a pretty good spread. And I think that I don't know if the CG people would like or hate that statement. I know the mainstream people would hate it, but it is true. At the end of the day, put out comics. It's fairly easy to spot a lot of these books. I do wish everyone in indie, but certainly CG folks, like spending that extra, I don't know, week. It can't be more than that. Probably it's a lot less. Spending that extra week to just get the type working and nailed down so you don't look like amateur hour when you put out your book, that would be such a good idea. I mean, if there was like one like very easy low bar swing of a suggestion I would give to comic creators is don't fuck up the type. It makes you look like a clown really, really quickly. So that would be that's my one advice and kind of the one consistent thing that I see goes screwy in a lot of these books. So anyway, there you go. Long video. Hope that helped. I gave it to you as honest as I tried. So there you have it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Bitch about how unfair all this is, and thanks for listening.